Okay.
Hi. Good morning,
Hi.
Janet. Thank you so much
Uh,
for allowing me to record this portion of the interview. Okay,
okay.
so we talked a little bit about your experience, and I'd like to hear it in your words, your medical billing experience. So I'll let you have the floor.
Okay. You were asking about when I was hired at Nirvana to understand the 30% denial rate that they
Mhm.
were receiving. Um, they had worked under Univita Allmed, which collapsed. And when it did, they had to find out what a PPO was, point of service, how to rebuild claims. They'd never rebuilt claims before. They never knew how to do a simple seven and then the ICN number and resubmit the claim and correct it. But they also didn't have a proper understanding of why they were being denied.
Mhm.
Um, so I was hired to learn how their process and billing works and to ascertain the denial reason, which I did. It took me about 3 weeks to figure that out, but it also took me a month and a half to help them understand that the evaluation codes were not being paid half the time and denied half the time based on policy authorization or a change from S codes to G codes. Um, it was actually that the evaluation codes, after I asked for a copy of their contract, I showed it to the CFO and showed him that those codes are not on their contract, that they're actually, the system is not exactly as intelligent to allot payment to the correct line. So it looked like it was paying for the evaluations part of the time and denying PTA visits with $90 on the RN evaluation and $5 on the PTA visit and being denied the rest, when actually it was paying 95 for the PTA visit and denying the RN evaluation. But it was also that they were having me hand key claims in on the portal for the insurance company, and they were having me doing it incorrectly because they didn't know how to resubmit claims correctly, which I also had to instruct them that that was improper. And I also implemented the denial tool, Zermed, to help me get through all those denials. It took me 10 months to clean up, but I had to prove my case because they were convinced it was other things and it wasn't. And everything they were doing was incorrect, and eventually won that case. And like I said, in 10 months, I recovered $342,000 for them. And they had to redo
Amazing.
their fee schedule because they didn't have it on their contract and for whatever reason couldn't get it on their contract. So they could only ever bill just the RN visits and the PT visits, et cetera. So I really had to
Wow.
turn around and massively educate them on the fee.
Wow. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Truly amazing. And you were with Nirvana for how many years? Because it looks like you held a few different positions there.
I did 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I did because once I cleaned up their denial reason, they used me in other
Mhm.
portions of their company to help
Sure.
assist with the ACA compliance for HR. And then it also helped with their sports medicine and in scheduling. And then when their manager for long-term care became ill, I took over the long-term care and I also handled the Medicaid and the authorizations and hiring and placing and orientating new caregivers and scheduling, stuff like that.
Okay, great. And then you went to, let's see here. Okay, and then you were at US.
I
Um,
did.
okay, and that you were there. That one was the shorter assignment that you did, and then most recently, tell me about what you're doing now.
I'm an independent contractor as a certified home health aide, and I'm going to school for AAPC to get my certification in the billing and the coding, hoping to get with either a contracting company for coding or at least a higher way of operating position in billing because I've worked in another billing agency where they didn't understand compliance and they didn't want to understand compliance. And I feel like if I don't get my certification, I won't be able to work with a higher quality company. I just
Okay.
have, yeah, there's just, I've literally faced being, the cussing and just, I don't understand that mentality. But
Hmm.
it was just the chiropractor, the owner was complaining about the chiropractor using modifiers. And I said, but he has to use those to communicate to Medicare that the patient may be billed, they know they won't be covered for a service. It took me 2 hours to get her to understand that Medicare Advantage products follow the Medicare guidelines, and she didn't really want to hear that. It was just stuff like
Sure.
that. It was really not
Okay.
pleasant. So
I understand. Okay. So, when you mentioned about getting your certifications, so right now the position that I had in mind for you is a temp to perm
Mhm.
position. So, is that something that would be
Yes.
acceptable for you at this time? So, what if, and we never know what's going to happen, long term. It depends upon the client, it depends upon the talent being you, if it's a good fit and such. What would happen should it be a good fit all around? Would you consider a permanent placement
Well,
somewhere,
yes,
or
that's
are
my
you looking to
ultimate
go
goal.
to?
Yeah.
Okay,
If
because it
that's
is
my
a
goal is
smaller.
finding someone with integrity that because when I worked at Nirvana, part of the reason I hung in and I stayed there was because I had a CFO who was
Mhm.
a good man that I could trust.
Sure.
And so all I'm looking for is a good
A good
employer,
environment, a good
a
company.
good
Okay, great.
environment.
Now, this office is a smaller office. There is one doctor there.
Mhm.
Um, and so it is smaller. Of course, they have front desk staff, they have billing staff. There's one biller that's currently there now, office manager, and then, of course, the
Mhm.
MAs and such. Um, Coming from a larger type of employer, how do you think you'd fit in a smaller type of environment?
I think it would be great. I'm a people person, so it doesn't,
Yeah.
big or small doesn't really matter to
Okay.
me. It's more the work ethic,
Perfect.
compliance, integrity. Those are the
Okay.
things that I'm looking for.
Wonderful, and well, absolutely, and that's what any good employer is looking for
Right.
in their employees for sure. Integrity is super important. Well, I'm going to
Mhm.
go ahead and stop this portion of the interview, but don't hang up. We have a few more things to chat about.
Thank you.
You're welcome.